Hello, artists. Today I'm going to talk to you about creating a ceramic box using the slab construction method, and also utilizing a paper template to do so. So first things first, we need a slab of clay. You can roll this out in a slab roller if you have access to it, or a rolling pin is also going to work just fine. I am working with clay that is about a 1/4 inch thick. I feel like that's a good amount to not be too heavy and also to not be too thin where it's easily broken. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is create a template so I know what size I want my box to be and that it's going to be what I'm imagining. I like to use Bristol paper. I use the Canson brand. It's just a little bit thicker, it's smooth, and it works really well for templates for me. It's flexible enough, but not flimsy. All right, so I decided I wanted to create a box that was about 3.5 inches tall by 2 inches wide, kind of all the way around. So I have cut those papers out. And then to make sure this is what I really want, I'm going to put this all together using masking tape. Masking tape is easy to remove or cut. And you may be very mathematically focused, but I am super visual learner. So it really helps me to be able to figure out, even if I know what size my sides are going to be, now I can picture how big the top is going to be. Again, if you're great at geometry, you probably already knew that you needed 2 by 2 as a square for the top and the bottom. But for a lot of us, this is super helpful to help visualize, and then we can even double check. Okay, so it is for sure going to be 2.5 by 2.5. I think I said 2 by 3.5, but I meant 2.5 by 3.5. All right, so this side is only 3 inches. Now, why is that if I want to end up with a 3.5 inch box? That's because I'm going to have a 1/4 inch for my lid and a 1/4 inch for my base. So that's going to end up being 3.5 inches tall. All right, now that we've got that math out of the way, I'm going to take one section here of my side. I will end up also creating a 2.5 by 2.5 inch square template to create the top and the bottom. All right, so I have my fresh clay. I am always working on a canvas or a piece of wooden board because I don't want to scratch up my tabletop. It also keeps it easier to clean up. All right, you may want to be thinking about incorporating textures or different colors into your clay slabs at this point. The color part is probably going to be more advanced. If you're in my Ceramics 1 class, you will be thinking about maybe incorporating a texture or maybe just getting this box built. That is a feat in and of itself. But if you do want to add a texture, now is the time when you have this slab rolled out flat. Think about if you want to use a texture roller, press maybe like some plant material into the clay, anything like that. I've done that here, just with some grasses from outside my studio. All right, so now I'm thinking about this, just like using a cookie cutter. I want to maximize the number of pieces that I can fit on here. You can use a fettling knife, or I think these little plastic tools work just as well. And you're much less likely to cut your hand. Go. All right, and I know I need 4 of these, so I'm going to go ahead and cut 4. All of my pieces of paper like this are the same size, so I can just use the one. And save your little scraps. You can wedge those and use them for something else. In fact, I'm probably going to use some of those little pieces to create a coil to go on the inside of my box to keep the lid from sliding off. After you get all of your pieces cut out, you will want them to dry a little bit. Right now, this clay is very plastic or very soft, and it's not going to hold its shape that well when it stands up. I have fairly small pieces, so it won't be too bad, but if you're working with a larger slab, definitely let it dry a little bit closer to leather hard so that you've got some body to it, some strength to it, so it can stand up on its own. One thing I might do, though, now that I've got it cut out, is also smooth out this other side. If you like that canvas texture, go ahead and keep it. I personally prefer to add a texture on purpose. But if it works for your design, I don't see why not. All right, so the next thing I would do is create a template for my lid and base and cut those out. If you wanted, you could instead just measure. I just think it's so easy to trace a template that why not make things easy on ourselves? If you don't want to do that, or maybe you're out of paper, I know this is going to be 2.5 inches right there. And then another 2.5 inches right here, and then I'll cut that across. I just find it easier to have a template because then I know I can kind of figure out having a perfect right angle each time. My example here is kind of, I was sort of winging it. But if you want your box to turn out like really perfect and beautiful, I would definitely make sure you measure really accurately. And having that as a template or writing your measurements down in your sketchbook will help you keep track of what you did. Say I've got my box, I love it, but then I dropped the lid on the floor. Now what? If I know how big that lid was to start, then I can create a new one, the exact size that I need as a replacement. If I do not know how big it is, I'm going to be guessing and trying to deal with thinking about clay shrinkage as it dries and fires. And I don't know about y'all, but if I can do a little bit less math, that makes me pretty happy. I was trying to get this to be a sharp right angle. I'm going to double check this measurement. Excellent. So I want to show you the process using a template and not using a template and trying to get it to be really accurate. The beauty of the template also is that I can see exactly what size this is before I start cutting things out. It's a lot easier to adjust with the paper than it is when you already have the clay cut out. All right, so I'm going to let these dry a little bit, and then I will show you how to attach these pieces, put them all together to form your box. All right, I just want to give you one quick note before we just let these dry. When you're working with slabs, it's important to let them dry pretty slowly so you don't get any cracks. And also, if you can, sort of flip them throughout the drying process. This will make sure, or at least help ensure, that they dry out without warping. Especially if you're working with larger slabs, this is really important in order to keep them flat. All right, I will go over joining these in the next video.